My name is Brian Manley. I'm the Chief of Police here in Austin, Texas. I've got Ken Cassidy, President of APA, up here with me as well. We're happy to roll out a new piece of protective equipment that we're going to be issuing to our frontline patrol officers and support units. But before I go into that, what got us here today? We all know that policing is a profession that can be dangerous at times, and last year was a horrific year for the law enforcement profession. We had 135 men and women last year, men and women who were committed to serving the communities where they lived, who had the courage to go where some won't go, who had their lives taken from them in this line of duty. And that was a 10% increase over what we had seen the year before. But probably more alarming out of that was that 64 of these men and women were killed by firearms. That was the leading cause of officer fatalities in 2016. That is not normally the case. Normally we see traffic fatalities rising above firearms. So this was a significant increase of 56% over what we had seen the year before. And that's alarming. And I think the community is aware of that. I think there was a lot of media attention that was placed upon each and every one of these brave men and women that gave their life while serving their communities. But I think the most alarming statistic out of all of this is that 21 of these brave individuals were ambushed. They were killed in ambush-style attacks. And that is the highest number that has happened in 2 decades. And so we saw some really alarming trends last year. There were a lot of things going on across this country. There's a lot of dialogue about policing, the policing profession. There was a lot of dialogue during the political process with divisive talk, and all of these things just kind of circled around, and what we saw is a very deadly year for the men and women who have the courage to serve. And so this is something that we're rolling out today that is coming on the heels of that. And of the states across the country, Texas led. We had 17 men and women killed in the line of duty in Texas, and that led the country. The next closest was California with 10. So again, this was something that there was a lot going into this. We've talked about this before. We've worked with the APA. This was something that the officers were asking for, realizing that times have changed a bit. And so, in cooperation with the APA, this was something they really wanted us to work on. We took this on as a challenge and found the way to fund the purchase of these vests that will be given to our officers starting today. They're rolling out. These, as you can see, are heavy duty, more of a tactical style vest. These officers will not wear these around the clock. They're not meant for that. This is something that the officers will have readily accessible in their vehicle to them, so that if they're dispatched to a call that involves weapons or that might involve weapons, they can take the extra couple seconds to throw this on over everything they're already wearing and afford them that extra level of protection and a higher likelihood of surviving a serious encounter if they are to come across that. So again, this is a long road that got us here today. We were fortunate that we tend to be the good stewards of our budget and try to only spend money where we need to. And so when we were coming to the close of last year's budget year, we had funds available that allowed us to make this purchase. And again, this was something that we worked on with the APA. We knew it was a priority for the men and women of the department, and we are as focused as we can be on their safety, trying to make their job as safe as possible. So we have purchased 958 of these vests. And these vests will be given to every man and woman that serves on the front line, and as well as those support units. Again, so they'll have these readily available to use to keep them that much safer when they're responding to calls where something like this could be necessary. So again, I want to thank the APA for our continued partnership and for continuing to push for the safety of the men and women and make sure that we're all holding each other accountable to do everything that we can to make this job as safe as possible. It is unfortunate that we live in a day and age where things like this are necessary, but I'm grateful that we had the ability to provide this for our officers to keep them safe. And so with that, I'm going to ask Ken Cassidy to come up and speak for a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Chief. What a great day. The APA really started looking at these vests, if you remember back last year when we had the tragedy in Louisiana. And while we're starting to slowly take a look, we had the tragedy that occurred in Dallas, Texas. and that just reemphasized how hard we needed to push. And you saw us come out, and Chief Acevedo at the time was willing to listen. And we owe the city of Austin, the citizens, and our executive staff here many thank yous for providing these vests. A lot of other big cities like Dallas and Houston are slowly starting to get them, but they've had to do it with money that the citizens have donated. And fortunately, we had enough money left over in our budget to where the staff could buy these vests that will be life-saving. You know, the vests that we wear now daily, they can only do so much, and this just takes it up another notch and more and more level of protection that our officers have. So again, thank you, Chief Manley, and thank you to the citizens of Austin for the tax dollars that have paid for this.
With that, we'll open it up for any questions.
Can you talk about the difference in the vests? I mean, what will this protect you against versus what is
Sure. So the importance of these vests is that these vests are rated for rifle fire, and unfortunately what we saw happen last year is we saw a lot of police officers that, as we talked about, in ambush style attacks that were assaulted with rifle fire. And so this will allow our officers to have a higher level of protection while they're out in the field.
So they might be wearing 2 bulletproof vests if they were to put this on over what else they're wearing.
They absolutely will be. This is not something you wear in lieu of the other. This is something that officers will put on over and above what we already wear.
Chief, you mentioned that the frontline officers are going to get this 958 vests. Can you just help me understand? I know APD's got 1,800 officers. You know, how do you define frontline officers?
Sure. These are the men and women that are out on patrol or supporting patrol in tactical units on the street. We don't need these for, say, our detectives or the folks that work inside. This is meant for the folks that are responding to the 911 calls, because that's where the greatest threat is.
And then what did the cost end up being for these vests? And can you explain a little bit more on where that money came from?
Sure. So these vests were $336 each. And so, and again, the money came from within our general fund. We have dollars budgeted every year to purchase equipment. And we are as conservative as we can be throughout the year so that we can come in at or under budget each year. And this was a significant enough need, and we had the funding at the end of the year last year to purchase these, so that's what we put towards that.
I know this might be jumping ahead a little bit already. Obviously, these vests are meant to protect officers, but it's not, you know, they only cover so much. I know APD has had at least one instance of an officer getting shot somewhere where a vest didn't protect. Is there anything else that APD is looking at in the future just to make sure officers are staying safe?
We'll always look for more innovative products, for anything that will allow for the men and women to be safer. But again, this profession comes with dangers. And that's why the men and women who are out there on the front lines truly are community heroes, because they are putting it out there, they are putting their life on the line. And so although we will never be able to protect them from every danger they will face, we will continue to look for every reasonable method or mechanism or piece of equipment we can give them to make the job that much safer.
You say that these vests will protect them from rifle fire. Do you feel like they're protected now with these vests from most of the gun-related dangers that they're facing out on the streets, or not?
Again, this is an extra level of protection that we're glad to be able to provide the officers. It has its limitations. There are only so many parts of the body that you can cover. We still have to be able to move. We still have to be able to function. And so the ability to give complete protection just is not realistic. And so we're just trying to give every level of protection possible.
When was the last time the department issued new body armor to officers?
Body armor is on a replacement cycle, so body armor is replaced every 5 years for every single officer in this department.
Chief, how likely is the department going to take maybe looking at bulletproof doors? The APA mentioned that as a possibility. Other departments are looking at it.
Sure. We've looked at that, and then again, that's where we have to look at the benefit, and we have to look at the cost, and we have to look at the possibility for implementing a program like that in a department as large as ours. So again, as much as we would like to roll out every single possible safety feature, we have to look at the feasibility and what's going to afford the best protection.
Last question.
In training officers to use these vests, what types of situations would they be trained to take them out of their car and put them on?
Sure. Again, what it really is if it's going to be left, somewhat up to them. If they believe they're going to be responding to a call where they may engage an armed individual, then the vest will be there for them to use and to give themselves that extra level of protection.
Chief, is it possible for you to show us the vest and maybe show us what's different from the vest they're wearing now?
Sure, and I think that actually are we gonna go downstairs and you're actually gonna get a chance to see some officers actually having these issued. But the vest itself, as you can see, it's got heavy plates in it, and so unlike body armor that we wear under our uniform, which is what's called soft body armor, this body armor is a hard plate, and it's a lot different than what we currently wear. That is soft body armor that we wear under the clothing, and so that's why it affords the higher level of protection. And it's just something that you'll strap on, and then you'll wrap it around the waist, and you'll be ready to go.
How much
Is
is
it
it weigh?
ceramic?
Metal ceramic.
It's a composite. I'm sorry?
How much does it weigh?
You know, I'm not sure the exact weight. It's probably about 10 pounds. That's why you can't wear them the whole time. All right, thank y'all.